Today's gonna be all about the Canon C50, and if you've seen the thumbnail, which I believe you have, you know by now that we're talking about the Canon C50. There's a lot to say about this camera, but obviously I don't want to make this video very long. And the other thing is, there have been quite a number of videos about this camera on YouTube and every other platform. So if you are interested to know about the spec, about image quality and all of that, this might literally not be the right video to watch, but this is more about justifying paying for this, if it's actually worth buying or not, and a little bit more about who should buy it and who should not buy it. And then lastly will be about, should you buy this or buy other options available in the market right now, especially from Canon if you are a Canon person, or from Sony or from Lumix and every other brand out there. So straight into this, my experience with Canon has been very, very limited. So I have only worked with the Canon C70 prior to me buying the C50, and I would say that's like 80% of my reason for buying the C50, because I've worked with the C70 before, and I'm like 90% into that camera. Like, I love every bit of it. I love the body design. And just to say, this is my opinion, this is my own use case. It's everything I'm going to say is more related to me than any of you out there. So I've loved the C70. I love the build. I love the image quality, which is like a very big thing for me at that point. The DGO sensor, in my opinion, is still the best sensor I've seen from any Canon cameras. So I love the image quality. I love the internal ND filter, and it's also one of the reasons that sold me into buying the C70, which I end up selling because I upgraded my camera to something a little bit better than the C70 at that point in time. And I had no remorse. I had no feeling of, why did I sell it, or should I have kept it? So, but while I had the C70 with me, I made some fantastic images with that camera. So from that experience, when they announced the C50, I was totally into it because I've used the C70 before and I loved every bit of it. So like, why not? Let's go with the C50. And my reason for buying the C50 is simple. I only read Komodo X, and I was looking out for a B cam or a C cam in some situation where I need a camera that can stay on gimbal, a camera that can take photos if I ever need to, which is something I don't really do. So once in a while, if I need to take pictures, maybe behind the scene pictures, obviously this will do that very well. So I needed that. And at the same time, when I do interviews and I'm setting like 2 cameras or 3 cameras, I need a camera that can stay on tripod and do all of this for me. So basically it's more about a, no, don't let me say last option camera, but a camera that can go with me if I want to be very nimble, if I don't want to take a lot of stuff with me. I just want my camera and maybe my gimbal, or just my camera and a tripod, and get some fantastic shots, either video or photo. So that was my reason for picking up a Canon C50. Now this is probably the most part you have to pay attention to, because there is a lot to say about this camera in terms of spec, and there is a lot that can sway you to buy this camera because of spec. And I just want to talk about something related to cameras and workflow of a filmmaker, or if you're a photographer. So at this day and age, I mean, people have been saying that, and I've also mentioned that cameras are so good that if you have any issue with them, it's either a user error or you need to just up your skill and know how to use the camera that you have. So in terms of spec that this camera can like give out, is so good that even my Red Komodo X can't do 7K. That's just the truth. It's a 6K camera, which obviously is, well, 1K difference, which is not massive, but this can do 7K. It can do open gate, which is the talk of town at this time and age. My Red Komodo X, which costs almost times two of that of this C50, can do that. It's full frame, which my Red Komodo X, which costs times two of this, is Super 35 sensor. It has its own top handle. My Red Komodo X didn't come with the top handle, just came like that. And it has a very reliable autofocus. My Red Komodo X does have an autofocus, but it's not as reliable as the one on the Canon C50. So, from spec point of view, obviously for anybody who will want to pick this over the Red Komodo X or over any other cinema body camera. But when you now put that aside and think about workflow, that's when things changes, because all these little mirrorless cameras, they just took a lot of stuff into them, and in terms of workflow, it might actually not work for some people depending on what kind of projects you do. So that's the case for me, and that summarized this video, because spec is not everything. The Canon C50 can do almost everything, but does it actually fit my workflow? That's the question we are going to answer in this video. I will title this segment Spec versus Reality. This can do 7K open gate with a massive data rate. Am I going to be doing that? Well, I got this camera for almost 3 months now, and if I filmed in 7K open gate, it will be probably once or twice, which I'm probably doing that just to test it out, not for a reason. Open gate is good, don't get me wrong, and it's a very important function that a camera should have in this age and time. And I'm not saying it's overrated, but how often do you use it depends on what kind of projects you do, depends on how you work. So in my own case, I rarely do need open gate. When I do, of course, I've got another camera that can do open gates and has more better um, image quality, in my opinion, which is the Blackmagic Pixels 12K. So if I want to do open gate or need something that uh, up tier, I'll probably go on the Pixels 12K rather than the Canon C50. This can film internal RAW. I rarely film on RAW on this, even when I had the C50. Though it can film in RAW as well, I don't often use the internal RAW. So if you are buying basically because of RAW, basically because of open gates 7K, just ask the question, how often do you think you will need it, or how often have you been using this kind of function in the cameras you've had before in the previous year? So I got it because I've used the C70 before. I needed a camera that can stay on gimbal, I needed a camera that can serve as my C cam or B cam, and I needed a camera that can take good photos. So that was my reason for getting it, not because of 7K, not because of internal RAW, not because of open gate. Of course, it can do all of that. That's an additional bonus, which is good. But there are many other options in the market now that can do almost the same thing that this camera can do. So that takes me back to how have I been using this camera. And in the past 3 months, I've actually not had a situation whereby I took this camera alone for a project. I always have a backup. I always have an A cam. This is always going to be my B cam or C cam. If I've had this camera with me as the only camera, probably because I'm working with some people and there are other cameras on set. So I know there's something I can fall on to if anything goes wrong. And when I say anything goes wrong, I'll quickly brush on the fact that this is a very solid camera, like very solid camera. Um, the body design 100% very solid. I have no single issue with this body design. The grip solid, like you can take this, takes all my fingers can go onto this. Shorter, very big, It's got tally lights, many buttons, and that's one thing I love about Canon. Well, while I was using the C70, there are tons of buttons on that camera if you want to customize and make your work easier, which I found myself not using every now and then. So, but it's there because to go through all the menu might be daunting sometimes. But if you have all of these buttons that you can actually customize to make your work easier, that's very good. And this has never overheated while I was using it, no matter the weather condition. And talking about weather condition, um, in the UK, it's been hot lately and it's a little bit going colder now. But so far, I've been using it, I've not had any issue of overheating. So, in terms of solid build and that guarantee of a camera is not going to break, I mean, this is very solid. And it has that top handle, which is one of the best. Comparing to the one I had on the C70, I'll 100% pick this over that. Solid, it's nice, it's compact, does everything well, and it has the audio interface over it, so it's perfect. Now to things that are not too perfect about this camera, and first and foremost would be the deciding factor for me for not wanting to keep this camera. The first thing will be the screen size. So I have the Nikon ZR, and just a minute, I'll get that out now. This is the Nikon ZR, and for context, see the screen on the Nikon ZR. So the thing is, for me, I'm used to big screen on my cameras, and on my Red Komodo, I have the 7-inch small HD monitor. On my Pixies, I have the 5-inch, and then there is another 4-inch by the side. On the Nikon, this is a 4-inch screen, which is, I mean, big. It's not as big as the other options that I've mentioned, but this is big enough for a mirrorless body. This is the normal 3-inch or 3.2 inches. I'm not too sure, but it's the normal one you have on almost all mirrorless cameras these days. So, one of the issue I have with the camera is I struggle to see everything. And I mean, this camera has some filmmaking tools that if you want to use like if you have them on, it helps your production. And by the time you start putting all of them on, like the space is getting too tiny and too small for you to actually see your image to nail focus if you are using manual focus, and all it's just like a little bit too cramped into this little screen. So personally, I'm not really a fan of 3-inch screen anymore. If you say I should rig it up and put a monitor on top, that's not the purpose of buying this camera. Like I have the red Komodo X, I have the Blackmagic Pixels 12K that I can rig up. I just want to get a camera that can be the camera like this. I can put the strap on and do whatever I need to do. Not something that I want to rig up, which has been a lot of struggle with this 3-inch screen for me personally. So if you are a fan of 3-inch screen or you want to get this camera to rig it up, then obviously go for it. The other thing that not really a fan of about this camera, well, I can't believe I'll be saying this today because prior to this time, almost all of my cameras have been without internal stabilization. And why will I complain about habits on this camera? Which is funny, but this doesn't have inbuilt body image stabilization. So every time I use it, I've realized that this might be a user error in quotes. I just noticed all these wobbles on like it won't be all through the footage. It might just be a part, and sometimes it might be the part I actually need. And like I said, I use this to get B-roll when I'm filming like corporate stuff or um, I'm setting to interview and I'm holding the camera in my hands and I'm getting cutaway shots. I just notice all these wobbles, and even sometimes the worst case scenario is I've had this on the gimbal and Call me whatever you want to call me. I've had gimbal for a long time. I've been using gimbal for a long time, and I've used varieties of camera on my gimbal. And in quote, I've never really had issue with the gimbal and my camera and wobbles until I got this camera. I had it on the gimbal, and I was scrolling through the footage while I was editing, and I noticed the wobble even with the camera on gimbal. I mean, obviously, it can't be perfect, but there is a way that I can tell that this is not as good as what I used to get. So when they announced the camera with all of those spec and they crippled it with no IBs, I mean, like I said, all my cameras have been without IBs, so I was like, that's not a problem. I'm happy with that. Until I started using it and I realized, okay, this is not going to work because it just doesn't work for me. So obviously, if you rig it up, maybe if you rig it up a lot, it'll be bigger, it will be heavier, and you'll probably have more stability with that. But like I said, that's not the purpose of me buying this camera. I just want something small that can do the job. And if I put a camera on a gimbal, even the Blackmagic pockets, not the pockets, the Blackmagic Cinema 6K, the pocket design one. I had that a while ago, and I used that on gimbal, and it was fine. Like, I know that camera can be shaky if you use it handheld and you don't rig it up, but on my gimbal it was smooth. It was, I mean, I've gotten quite a number of shots on that, and it was fine. I had no issue. But why am I seeing those wobble? Is it user error, or have someone else noticed something about that? I think if you have, please let me know in the comment section. So that's another critical point. I mean, I don't have much issue about this camera. Like I said, it's a camera that can do it all. And if you are wanting to get a good cinema camera that can kill the FX3, like most people are saying, I'm not saying this is killing FX3 in my opinion, because you can only kill FX3 in my opinion in terms of what you can get, like 7K and open gate and all of that, which most people will not do every now and then. So if that's what's killing for you, well, happy days. So the other thing I'm not really keen about this camera is battery life. Battery life is somehow mid, and the only solution I found with that is when I got it, one of my friend has another Canon, I think R6 Mark III, and he recommended that I should buy all this small rig battery on Amazon. And I actually bought two. To my surprise, he told me that it's even more powerful than the one that comes from Canon. And I thought he was joking. I bought it, and they give me more time than the one that came with the camera. So if you are struggling with battery life, I would recommend that you get all those small rig batteries on Amazon. They're very cheap comparing to if you want to buy the Canon's battery itself. It's way expensive. And that leads me to the other thing I am not really keen on with this camera. Because the image stabilization is a big deal. Like I said, um, if you are thinking of getting lenses that will cover up that for you, like lenses that have IBs, it is expensive. It is really expensive. I I tried to like think through it. I wanted to get the 24 to is it 105, the f2.8 lens, which is a solid lens. I mean, for filmmaking, and I know I can also use that on my Red Komodo X because that's an R mount as well. So I thought, oh, this would be a good combination if I want to use it on my Red as well. But the price is just expensive, and because there's no much third-party lenses for R mount, it makes things a little bit complicated. So if I'm sticking with my Nikon, I can adapt it to almost any lens mount. Can go on E mount, I can go on L mount if I want to. I can literally adapt this to a lot of mounts. So that is another thing you need to, I mean, just think about it. If you want to get the C50, think about the spec that you get. Think about how much of those spec you'll be using in your everyday shoot, and think about the cost of getting this to work well. You have to come back to IBIS if you are not planning to rig it out. You have to think about lenses that have internal body stabilization. They cost a lot. So, except you have all of these things before, which is fine. So, the last section of this video is going to be more about decision making. One, should you buy this camera if you are looking out for it? Two, if you own this camera, should you keep it? Should you sell it? Three, if you are thinking about buying this camera, is it wise to buy this one or the R6V, which has just been announced? And there's one thing about Canon is that I don't know how they do it. They put all of the spec from the C50 in the R6 Mark III and then now the R6V, I think. And some of them even like the R6V has image stabilization. I think the R6 Mark III does as well. And this doesn't. Obviously, it's the cinema line, but so these are things that you might have to think about. So, with my experience with this cam, this is my summary. So, if you are someone that film a lot of interviews, a lot of corporate videos, I think this camera will work well for you because if you're on tripod, you don't have issue with image stabilization, and you don't have issue with battery life because you can easily plug in a battery. You can rig it off if you want to. The other thing is if you're getting B-roll, I mean, there's that part of the wobbles, but you might get away with it. You might be better in using gimbal than me. That's fine. But it will serve you well in terms of corporate videos, events. Yeah, events maybe. Yeah, because if you're on gimbal, you're on tripod, you can do well with events. But if you're doing a lot of narrative work, if you're doing a lot of commercial work, that's when things get a little bit tricky. I'll still look into some other option. I'll even pick the Sony FX3 for narrative or commercial work over the Canon C50 because if I'm doing narrative, I'm not thinking about open gate, except I want to get more field of view, which open gate gives you. If you are thinking between this, the R6 Mark III, the R6V, this Nikon ZR, the Sony FX3, the Lumix X1 Mark II, I won't say pick one over the other, but I would say just look at what kind of work do you do, and is your work going to be changing in nearest future? Nearest future. So think about all of those. But in summary, this is a very solid camera. If you're doing like corporate, if you're doing event stuff, if you're taking photos, if you need a very solid hybrid camera, this is one to buy. The body design, the quality of image you get out of it is solid. But the Nikon ZR will still be my pick over the C50. Nikon ZR does have its own quirks. I mean, there are a lot of stuff to talk about the Nikon ZR, which I've not made a video about it. I've had the Nikon ZR for a long time, but there have been a lot of videos about Nikon ZR. But if you are still interested to know my opinion or how I actually use this alongside all my other cameras, well, you can leave a comment down below and I will attend to that. But the Nikon ZR for me gives you a very good image quality at the price of file size, and that's in summary. It gives you a solid image quality, a good screen, a good battery life, no overheating so far, portable design, but you pay the price of your file size. The Canon C50 on the other hand gives you a good image quality as well. In my opinion, not close to the one from the Nikon ZR, because if you film in Red RAW, that's solid. And you get a good body design. It lacks like bigger screen, it lacks image stabilization, and the battery life is not the best. There are ways around that. So um I've been talking for a long time, but think about it. um not all roses are red. Not all specs like 7K open gate, internal raw, C-Log 2, dual base ISO, those things, they are good, but how often do you need them? How often are you using them? And when the camera is crippled with one thing or the other, how much of that crippled ability do you need in your production? All of these things are things to factor into making a purchase. That's about it for today's video. If you want to know more about the Nikon ZR, like I said, just leave me a comment down below and I will attend to that. Glad you stayed behind till this point. And for introduction, my name is Samuel. I'm an aspiring cinematographer based here in the north of England, and I make videos about filmmaking, about cinematography. I talk about lighting. I talk about gears that I use in my production, and um, very soon I'll be talking about color grading because I've had loads of requests to um, share my color grading workflow, and I'm just trying to put things together, and then I'll start talking about that. So if any of that resonates with you, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. That helps the channel grow, and at the same time, don't forget to like this video if you found something helpful in the video. So that's about it for today. I will see you in the next video.